So this is very typical of a factory steam engine. It's the kind that would have run a factory in the 1800s, right up to the early 1900s when they were replaced by diesel and electric. This particular one was made by Sawyer Massey in Hamilton. It was actually used in Quebec in a mine, believe it or not, and what it did is it cut mica, and mica is a rock that you can cut into very thin slices, and you use it to make the backs of chairs and that kind of thing. It's for decorative purposes. Basically, the way these engines would have worked is they would have sat in the middle of the floor in the factory and connected to the wheel, which you can see over there, there would have been a pulley, and connected to that, there would have been belts, and it would have run all the machinery that way. It has all the normal pieces that a factory small steam engine would have. So we've got the cylinder here, that's where the steam would be, the connecting rods here, which connect to the wheel, which spins, and it's that spinning motion which would run the pulley, which would run the machines that this thing was powering in the factory. A couple of interesting features about this. One is this thing here. You can see this weird looking thing here. This is a typical thing that you found on a lot of steam engines. It's called a flyball governor. One of the dangers with a steam engine would be to let it run too fast. If you do that, you can have too much steam in the cylinder and you can actually start to damage the engine. Worst case scenario, the cylinder can actually explode. So obviously you want to prevent that. So as the engine is running, these would be spinning around and around and around and around. And they've got two little weights on them. So as long as they're spinning slowly enough that the weight of the balls is higher than the speed they're spinning, everything's fine. If the engine starts running too quickly, the balls start turning too quickly, and then what they do is they pull apart. Centrifugal force pulls them apart, and that pulls open a valve in here that lets the steam off. So it's a safety feature that you see in a lot of steam engines. The other interesting thing about this one is the spokes on the wheel. Now that wheel is made of cast iron, not of steel. And cast iron is actually very, very strong, but it's strong when you push on it or when you pull on it. The minute you try and bend it, it snaps. So if you had a straight spoke, the force basically of starting or stopping the engine or changing its speed can put a lot of pressure on those spokes, and they can snap. Obviously you don't want that. One way you avoid that is by making them curved like they are there, and that basically produces two arches, and that distributes the force on those spokes towards the center and towards the rim of the wheel where it's nice and safe. So very typical of a factory engine made in Hamilton in the late 1890s to about 1910, somewhere in that time period this would have been made. Lots of these used to be out there running all the factories that made all the things that people went to the stores and bought.